Good evening. Well, it's bloody good morning now, isn't it? Right, okay, now I promised I'd make this video, and this is obviously going to be a basic thing about fault diagnoses on TVs. Alright, this isn't a complete instructable, it's just more of a general guide. I need to get my act sorted out now. But anyway, waffle. So, with a beer and a smoke, I really ought to be in bed, but who cares? I promised I'll make this video. And it's for, I think, either my 189th or 190th subscriber by the name of It's Me Johnny Boy 3. So thank you very much for your subscription, or for subscribing rather. Let's hear the case and get on with it. What we need to do is get this lit up, and then we get on. As you guessed, it's TV issues. And what's annoying is, before we get into this, and it's something that must be known, it's difficult for me to diagnose something without seeing it. It's the same thing as if you phone up a doctor and ask them what the problem is with you. Well, they're not going to be able to tell you without you going into a doctor's office, GP surgery, and basically having tests done. That's the whole point. So this is more just a sort of guide, if anything. But here we have it. Right, so this is in relation to It's Me Johnny Boy 3. It says, hello, I know this video came out in 2019, but do you know how to fix my Technica TV? It was made in 2010 and is 39 inch. When turned on, it stays on for maybe a minute, but then it turns itself off and happens again and again while trying to turn on. Any fix would be amazing. Can't find anything on Google though. Or Google, thanks though. Alright, so I did respond, and I said, could be a capacitor issue on the power supply board, common things to go wrong, especially if TV's this age. If you know how to solder and have multimeter, then it's a fairly easy fix with that. Without seeing the TV, it will be difficult, obviously, to diagnose, but I'm going to first suggest the capacitors on the inverter card. There is another video on my channel about another TV I featured. It was a Xenius one. Have a look at that and you'll get the idea of what I'm on about. Well, obviously, there is a caveat to that, and this is what we're going to explain. Now, right, first of all, you're going to be dealing almost certainly with high voltage components if the back shower TV has to come off. So I have to say this, I'm not responsible for any damages or injury or death or blown off bits of sausage or other things that may arise. So do factor that one in mind. And as always, I'm very limited actually in my scope of being able to give advice without actually seeing the unit in question. In this case, it's a 39-inch Technica TV. Well, I actually do have a Technica TV, but yeah, I'm not in the business tonight of stripping that down, trying to recreate a fault. So we have to go by what I would do. Right, so this is general, sort of for everyone else, general fault finding. So what would Scooby do? What would Scooby do? Well, okay, Scooby would do this. Take a look at the TV and say, right, is there anything plugged into it? Right? Digiboxes, other sort of shit that could cause a problem. This becomes relevant because about 3 or 4 years ago, I had to deal with a rather expensive unit that turned out to have a problem due to a faulty PlayStation 3. Well, we removed that, and it then turned out it was a dodgy HDMI cable. So I would say remove all peripherals. But it doesn't stop there, you see. And here's the reason why. A couple of years before that, there was another TV that I had to deal with, and it turned out it was the remote control that was at fault. Oh yes. That caused all manner of headaches for about a week. Turned out there was a fault with the remote control, and somehow it had shorted out internally, probably through liquid damage, and it was pressing down the power button on it. Kept turning the telly off. And again, I've even had this happen with the main power buttons on the side of the unit, where they get stuck and depressed down. Well, of course, if they're pressed and stuck in, well, the TV will turn on, turn itself off again, and on again, and off, because the power button's stuck. So with this one, the first thing you can do is remove everything from it. Literally everything. Right? If you've got games consoles, digiboxes, just unplug them all. And take the batteries out the remote and try it again. If that doesn't clear it, then the back shell of the TV has to come off. Even if it's depressed switches, it may be that one is broken internally, in which case back shell has to come off. Anyway, to think about resurfacing it, not resurfacing, whichever. And this is where shit gets a bit awry and potentially dangerous. The second that you start removing screws from that back shell, you're going to want to go through a few checklists. And the first one is, turn the mains off but leave it plugged in for a bit. Right. The idea being is you want any remaining current to flow out through the neutral line, because the mains are switched on the line side. So any charge that's built up in there will be dissipated down through the neutral line. And that's the general idea, at least here in the UK anyway. Right. Then the second thing is you'll want to remove power cord. What I always do, just to be extra safe, is on these boards, I'd short these two pins out, just in case this guy is faulty. Because you don't want to get a whack off of that and find out the hard way. Once you've done that, right, basically what you're looking for on here, this is not a Technica board, by the way, this is off a different telly. It's these. Now, each board is going to be different. Some may have more than 4 caps and some may not. We just dispose of this. I'll sort of show you what I mean. I'll tell you. Of a TV of that age, bearing in mind it was made in 2010, the reality is the components are a lot older than that, possibly. Possibly a lot older than that. Let's just try and get this stupid tablet to... Well, that's not coming on now. But yeah, basically the components are going to be slightly older than 10 years old. In fact, we don't even need a tablet for this anyway. So there's every good likelihood that those parts are in need of changing anyway. The serviceable life on capacitors is somewhere between about 5 and 8 years. And that depends on how stable your actual power supply is going into it, and depending on usage. You have to consider is that these power supply inverter boards, they're dealing with fast switching, and they have a lot of electronic and electrical noise on there. So those components will come under a lot of strain. And Technica being Technica, or for a lot of generic TVs these days, aren't made with longevity in mind. That's a factor worth considering. We'll look at this more. So, basically, what you're going to want is once you've got that board out, or even before you've extracted it, with some sort of screwdriver, you're going to want to start shorting these out. Well, the thing is, you're going to be changing these anyway. This one, this one, this one, depending on the layout of your board. Right, so you'll be looking at changing them. So you'll have to shorten with a screwdriver, just in case there's any stored charge in there. Right? You don't want to put your fingers in there. No cheating. Right? Because you'll end up a bit hurt from that. But probably blow the end of your fingers off. Ooh, not nice. So, once you've discharged it and made sure it's all dead, and assuming you're not dead, you're going to want to remove them. Now, the reason why I say this is simple. Assuming that the other situations haven't fixed it, you can't test these reliably with them in situ. Right? You won't get proper readings on it. And in any event, with the age of the unit, you'll be wanting to just change it. That's why you'll need a soldering iron and some solder, and obviously the wick or a desoldering pump. And on the back end of it, I've done a pretty piss poor job on this one, it's got to be said. So I was soldering when drunk, as I sometimes do. So you just change that out and put in all your replacements there. Now, you'll also want to do a visual inspection in case you end up with something that looks like that, which is a hot spot on there, which would be indicative, quite possibly, of a Mosfet failure, which could be caused by some sort of overvoltage or overcurrent. On the capacitor note, this is what you should have. Right? It should be perfectly uniform and flat. That would be where the board would sit there. If they're domed in any way on the top, or at the bottoms, or they've blown their arses out, or blown the tops off them, that's bad. Right? This is what the tops of them normally look like. When they bulge out, they sort of go really domed. Sometimes when they blow up, they open out like a little flower, and they'll just spew loads of garbage everywhere. Makes a right mess and all. So that's sort of roughly what you'll be wanting to look at. If changing those out doesn't help you, you're going to sort of move on to looking at Mosfets possibly. Now these are your transistors. Black packages, sometimes that have a hole in them, sometimes not, depending. May have a basic collector and an emitter on them. Again, you'll need a transistor tester for that. You can do it on a multimeter as well. By shorting the gates out and then take a reading across there and short the others out, and then you'll check if they're functional. But normally you'll just change them out as well. So that's sort of where you'll go with it. That's on the shotgun replacement. Now, oh, as I nearly kicked tripod over again, that seems to be a regular thing. Now, in relation to a TV, I can't exactly tell what's going on with what our friend here has. Right? Don't exactly know. So there are a few possibilities and we'll have a look. Right? Line supply comes in, so it would either be 110 or 220, 240. Let's try and hold this level so you can see it, which I'm probably not going to do very well. Alright, so supply comes in and either a 3 or a 5 amp depending. I would imagine probably, yeah, lower amperage on it. Into your power supply board. I just named it as PSU, but it's power supply inverter. From then on, right, you have a potential couple of things. That switching on and off could be something to do with TCON, which is timing controller. And we'll have a little look at that in a minute when I tell you about that. It could be a separate board, or it could be inbuilt into the actual TV's logic board. And then obviously you might have a separate board altogether that drives your backlight, if it's indeed a backlight driven. Now, with TCON, that's in relation to timing controller. It could also be something to do with your overvoltage and overcurrent protection, and indeed undercurrent and undervoltage circuit protection. Now, the reason why that would be there is to prevent fires. It's not to save your device. Can you imagine how bad it would be for any sort of equipment vendor, and how bad the lawsuits would be if what they made spontaneously could combust on you? It probably would give rise to some very interesting lawsuits and probably burn your house down. So, basically what they do is they have this circuit protection built in. It could well mean, back on this board, that any of these components here that break down and give inconsistent values might cause a particular problem that creates an overcurrent environment. It could do, and in this case, you see there's a hot spot on there. This board was out of a Panasonic TXL42E5B, I think it was. Still haven't fixed that TV yet. But trying to find parts still for it. And there's other things that's gone slightly awry with it as well. But again, that's sort of roughly where I would start looking. Now, if changing these parts out doesn't solve it, what I can tell you, it's probably not going to be your rectifier, and it's unlikely to be balance chokes. Not sure about this functional transformer up there in relation to your TV. It may or may not be that, but if dealing with those doesn't resolve the issue, then it more than likely is something that's gone crazy elsewhere. So that's kind of pretty much where I would go with it, really. I would start by removing any peripherals and check that the physical clicky buttons, like if you've got a tablet, or I have one here, where the clicky button's broken. Make sure, well, there you are, see, it sort of works but doesn't. I'll check that that's not actually a factor. And again, check your remote control. And if, as I said, if that doesn't happen to fix it, then that's roughly what you're going to be looking at doing, is removing the back shell, and then things get mucky. Alright, so a multimeter will help you out. Now, there are other things as well that you might need to check. And again, if you're not up on electronics, now might be a good time to start learning it. Because even simple things like diodes and resistors can sometimes go wrong. And indeed, any of these other packages as well. Any of these polymer caps can go bad. With resistors, if they go open circuit, they'll probably go in a bad way, but they can break down internally. But again, if you know what the colour values are on there, if you're getting close enough, there's banding on it. Well, you would check the corresponding colours. So red, red, and red, I think that is. So 3, 3, and 3 noughts. So this is 33,000 or something along those lines, whatever. I can't remember exactly what it is off by heart. And certainly not this early anyway, but you get the point. And then you would check that resistance value against your multimeter. That one you probably could do with it in situ. The rest of it, no, because you're going to have to remove these parts off those boards. But again, caps, that's where I would start if it is indeed that issue. It's from a mathematical standpoint is what I would be looking at, actually. See, it's all about mathematical probabilities as well when dealing with this. What's most likely to go wrong? And again, with what was said, let's just try and revisit that. Bear with me, and we'll recap on it. So we'll just log back in. So we'll look at the screenshot again. There it is. There's the comment. It's me, Johnny Boy 3. Yeah, the TV was made in 2010. Alright. Well, yeah, the TV might have been. That's on the date that you would probably see on the back of it. The components might have been sat in a factory for God knows how long. And they could be broken down just by sheer aging. And yeah, these things do break down over time. So it could be that. It could be a power surge that's done it and done your T-con. It could be a logic board issue. That's sort of roughly where I'll go with it, really. Check your peripherals, check your remote control, and on that note, there is a way that you can check your remote control, just in case you didn't know. I haven't got a battery in this one. I don't think so, but I'll show you the principle of it. So you take a smartphone, right, and you'd set it into camera mode. And then you would press and hold the button on it, and then you'd be able, in the camera, to see a light come on there. And the reason being is because these cameras can detect infrared signals and actually see that, whereas your eyes can't see in infrared. So just simply holding that there would be indicative if it's a stuck button. It might be. You never know. If you get lucky with that, well, yeah, you saved yourself opening the back shell off a fucking TV, ain't you? I know it sounds stupid, but I've been caught out on that one many a times. And even when I think I've been right on something, it turns out I've been blisteringly wrong. because of that. Alright. So that's what you have to bear in mind. And that's sort of pretty much the kind of the fault process I go through. Whatever happens from then on out, well, that's kind of down to that really, isn't it? But once you go through that fault process, you'll be in better shape. What have I done with my lighter? Oh dear. I'm sure somebody will now tell me where I put my fucking lighter now, won't they? Which will be interesting because I would have found it by then. Follow a beer with a cider. Because that's in cider. Oh yeah. So yeah, you see it. I've got a good lighter here. Soldering iron. See? These are handy. Works every time, baby. That's what you want. Looks alright, that's under there though, doesn't it? Lastly on that point, what you could have that's gone wrong, and these things here. Them. Right. Those small packages are linear voltage regulators by looking at. Sometimes they can go wrong. Sometimes it can be that guy there. Right. But probably unlikely. I think this power board, to be honest with you, is well and truly fucked. It's all crusted up. I think there's all sorts on that, to be honest with you. Something's leaked in there. I think that's seen better days. Now, just before I sign off, my dear friend, I keep forgetting his name, so I need to check back on that. It's me, Johnny Boy 3. Alright, DigiKey's your friend on this one. Now, you don't want to skimp on multimeters if you ain't got one. Buy the best you can afford. Don't buy the cheap shit from Amazon. Alright. If you ain't got the money for Fluke, Uni-T are a good option, and they'll cost you about 40 or 50 quid. And you get a half decent set of leads with it. Alright, and that's what you want. Right. Don't skimp on soldering irons either. Alright, I would say it's essential nowadays to have this stuff. I would, particularly with everything now being digital based. Fucking hell, even your fridge freezer's now hooked up to the internet these days. So, yeah, learning electronics is probably going to help you out. In the background over there, you might be able to see my Handtech oscilloscope. You can pick them up fairly cheaply anyway. I would recommend you get one. Right. Any's better than nothing. And learn how to use it. I don't mean to patronise you, but I don't know who I'm dealing with either, and that's the next problem. I don't know what it's me, Johnny Boy, is capable of. Might be even a better electronics engineer than me. You never know. But I have to err on the side of caution. But yeah, just basically that's the sort of shit that I would start fault finding if it were me. That's basically it, really. And go from there. Now, I can't remember 2019 very well. So when I took that Technica apart, I can't remember the layout of it. But that's largely irrelevant because your TV is probably going to be different, isn't it? Fucking hell. The joys of trying to diagnose stuff without seeing it. It's difficult. But again, turns on, stays on for a minute and then turns itself off. That sounds like either dodgy caps or it's a T-con issue and some sort of overload protection's been triggered. Change those caps, reset the tally and see if that helps it. To reset a TV should be fairly easy anyway. You just power it up, press and hold that power button and keep hold of it. And recycle it a couple of times. Just keep hold of it. It'll fire up and shut itself down. And then kill it at the wall. Leave it off for a bit and then try and power it up normally. That's after you've changed the components out. But that's pretty much where I would go with that. From then on, if it ain't that, then on, you'll probably be looking at one of the other wing boards on it. And as I said, if it's a separate T-con board, it could be that. Fucking hell. Could be any number of problems with it, and that's the issue. See, even power surges and backlight could do it. Any number of things. And I ain't got the schematics to hand either. They're probably somewhere on one tablet or another that I have, but fucking hell, trying to dig that out at such short notice would be a right pain in the arse, wouldn't it? But that's sort of what I'd do. Moving forward, yeah, that's basically it. So, I'm sure you've heard me bollocks on enough now for 31 minutes. Give it a try, let me know. Alright, so there you are, my mate. Let me know how you get on. And if you like this sort of shit and you want to have more sort of virtual surgery, sort of like drop-in surgeries virtually, let me know. So, yeah, courtesy of It's Me Johnny Boy, well, it's me Johnny Boy 3, thank you very much for your subscription as well. I'm trying to get the channel monetized, so tell all your friends and family. I need to make it to at least 1,000 subscribers. And maybe then consider a little donation here and there to keep the channel afloat. That would be hugely appreciated. Like, comment, subscribe as always, and know that you're all worth it. That you're all valuable people. And as always, that I thank you all. Let me know as well, Johnny Boy, how you get on with this. I'll be interested to find out. Now, if you do run into further problems, I'm sure there's a way that you can personally message me and then maybe send a board in and we'll try and query it. Maybe. Well, that's something I'm looking at trying to do, actually. Have a mail-in service for that. Where you courier it in, I accomplish a repair and then courier it back. I'm thinking about doing that. That would be quite interesting. I've done something similar a way back before with smartphones during lockdown and it actually worked quite well. But for bigger stuff, I don't know. That might be something to consider. Anyway, till next time, stay awesome. It's been yours, totally, well, I don't know about all amazing, but it's Hotbot. Whoa! See you soon, bye.